Hello people, this is Papatosser and I'm going to show you the power of Forcefields. Now, Forcefield is an ability that you can pretty much always improve on how to use it. Sometimes it's obvious, you just want to block your ramp and then there's not much else to do about it. But sometimes there's a lot of fun uses for the Forcefield. So I'm going to demonstrate one of them in this video. One thing that you can do and can always keep your eyes out for, unless you already think about stuff like this. But I'm also going to talk about other stuff you can do that basically can win you the game even if you're at a disadvantage. For example, you can, against any player really, I did it against Terran a few times. I don't think I've done it against anyone else, but you can definitely do it. You use a warp prism to warp in a sentry or two in his main when he's got his forces at his expo. If you need to lure his forces to his expo, then just fake attack his expo with a couple of stalkers or something and he probably will move his army out to his expo. And it's very natural for players to have them at the position that you are most likely to attack, which is the expo. So he will most likely have his forces there. So basically you warp in a couple of sentries with your warp prism at his main, and then you force field his ramp, and then with the warp prism you warp in zealots or whatever and just wreak havoc upon his main. Constantly warping in a sufficient number of sentries means that you can permanently force field the ramp, so if he's got no medevacs or anything such, it's impossible for him to save his main, which basically allows you to just win the game right there. Unless of course he's able to just attack move his entire army into your base and win instantly. And thus I would only really recommend that strategy if you're certain that he cannot do that. So you don't want to spend too much of your total economy on that attack. So I would recommend being on 2 or even 3 bases when you actually pull that stunt off. But just keep in mind it's actually doable and it's pretty goddamn fun to do that kind of stuff. Alright, you can see here he has cancelled his roach worm because he didn't want me to see what he was up to. And I've been scouting those 2 positions, and in this game, just before I look at my base and you laugh, I'm just gonna say that I felt a bit crazy, so I was like, hell, I'm gonna do this. And I added a second gateway. This wasn't actually any rush, I just added a second gateway when I found out that we were pretty close to each other. So yeah, that's what I did, that's it's actually a pretty bad move from my part. I found out later on it didn't really benefit me at all, but that's actually what put me behind in this game, and then I was able to come back thanks to the Forcefield. A lot of Zerg players, not only Zerg players, but a lot of players in general think that the Forcefield is imbalanced. Personally, I think it's balanced, but it's up to each and every person to it's up to you if you think it's imbalanced or not, but it's pretty awesome nonetheless, and it has really fun uses. You can see here I have rally pointed this zealot to the choke in order to stop him from doing exactly what he's doing right now, but his speed just finished it, and I moved out a little bit too early, so he's gonna be able to enter my main right here, which is going to put me back significantly in this game. You can see my zealot not being able to get to the choke because it was blocked by servants. And he's gonna reach my nexus area. I just want to dispose of the servants as soon as possible so that I may attack his base with my high amount of zealots. I cannot run over. I don't really want to chase his 2 zerglings for eternity, so I just move out instantly with all my zealots. And my cyber core is ready now, so I'm gonna be able to produce sentries and stalkers and stuff, which is gonna be pretty neat. Anyways. But the use of force fields, of course you can use them just to block your ramp, but also remember certain small basic tricks, such as in Protoss v Protoss, you may, or actually in any matchup, mostly not in Zerg because they mostly have all their units out here, but in general, if the opponent is 1-basing, you may be able to use the sentries to your advantage at your ramp, but you can also use them at their ramp. Because even if they have the high ground, you can use the force fields to your advantage by force fielding their army in half. For example, if it's Protoss v Protoss, you're gonna be able to force field his army in half. If he's running down the ramp, he's not actually at an advantage in that position. So if you're standing outside his base, you're gonna be at the advantage. Anyways, I think I pulled some force field here, so I'm just gonna show that to you. This was nothing specific, but using the Selnaga tower and using my sentry, which is arrives right now, I'm going to be able to force field these roaches pretty awesomely, although it appears I'm not gonna do that right now, but I'm rather gonna do that next time. Right about now, I think. As you can see, I hope. Yes. Now you can't see me force fielding because I'm a total noob, but no matter. I'm making a Stargate right now because I figured that with a Void Ray I can safely expand against his roaches, because of course his roaches can't attack air. So then I can come back to this game economically, and you know, we can have a more even game. Actually, I thought I was at a huge disadvantage by now, since he killed a lot of probes in the beginning and stuff, but I guess it was a psychological response to what was happening, because as a matter of fact I'm ahead right now, and it's pretty even, although on two bases he's ahead economically, but in probes I am ahead. So anyways, I got my two gateways here, and I've got my Stargate up. So I'm gonna be producing Void Rays in order to be able to expand safely, and of course I will see what kind of aggression I may be able to pull with my Void Rays, even though my initial plan is to expand ASAP. It seems I'm not gonna expand super fast, but simply but that is my goal with Void Rays. That is my goal with Void Rays, to be able to safely expand, because I know that it will take me some time to get high levels up. Here we're going to use Force Fields, and I have to say those Force Fields were a bit misplaced, but they still help. And that is why I'd like to say, a little bit lag now, but never mind. That is why I'd like to point out that you can pretty much always improve your Force Field use. It has so much potential if you do have the potential. Basically, if you learn to do it correctly, you can use force fields to a sick extent. They will be completely ridiculous in the end if you manage to use them perfectly. You can see in a lot of PvP pro matches, specifically force field, can see some great use by some professional players. I'm not going to be able to use them that well, but I can still show you a few tricks. We've already talked about the warp wrist force field trick, and we've already talked about standing outside your opponent's space and standing up your own ramp in force field. You can also force field out in the open, but it can be very difficult to put as many force fields as you may need in time. So one thing to very much keep in mind when you're using a lot of sentries is to try to stay as close as possible to chokes, or positions like this are okay because it's an okay choke, you know, a couple of force fields and you can make it smaller, but you don't want to be completely out in the open like over here, because that will pretty much screw you over if he attacks you. Since you've invested a lot in sentries and they're pretty terrible in damage output and health. Well, actually their damage output is not that terrible, but their health is. And yeah, their damage output is pretty terrible, but whatever. And as you can see here, I'm just going to pretty much run up his ramp and screw him over. I'm just going to show you why I decided to do that. I'm just going to speed up things a little bit here. One thing you really need to keep in mind is to do fancy stuff like this. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I'm not mentioning that you can do with force fields, and this way it's such a great thing. It's such a great spell, because you can really let your fantasy flow and you can do whatever the hell you want to do. You can pretty much alter the terrain, and you can come back from situations like this. Although I wasn't as much behind as I thought I was, even if if I look at the army tab, I was ahead by a lot. But let's face it, I wouldn't be able to attack this right on and win. So my decision was to simply pretty much just screw that. I can see he's moving up, and therefore I'm just rushing up his ramp. Even if he was at more of an advantage than he was, there would be no way for me to come back from this, because this was pretty much game over. For some reason he decided to attack the rocks here before attacking, before going to my base, but no, this didn't really make much of a difference. As you can see here, I'm putting a second force field in order to destroy his lair, and I'm going to basically break his entire base. And that's just because of one ridiculous move, and I just ran up the ramp and instantly the match was over. There was no way for him to win anymore. As you can see here, he's going to eat my second Nexus alive, but I'm preparing for a super awesome economy just in case it doesn't. I mean, I'm preparing my production to be able to deal with awesome economy. And I've slipped a little bit on the macro while doing this because it was like, oh my god, oh my god. But let's just focus on what's happening here. I'm making a void ray in order to secure myself against any attacks that he can perform, because as you can see, he's got nothing. Nothing against air. He's just got a bunch of roaches. That's not going to help him attack my air at all. So with the void ray and a couple of sentries, there's no freaking way you can make it up my base. There's no freaking way we can win this game. And the game was pretty much won by Forcefields. As mentioned, there's a lot of ways to use Forcefields. So just find out how to use them, find out your what you prefer, and find out real fun ways to use Forcefield. And I wish you good luck in using Forcefields, and have fun, of course, because it's a pretty nifty ability, and it can be used in such a huge amount of ways. So good luck with your games, and I'll see you around.